Oh, dear.
Right. This is Paddington and the Giant Tour. Oh, look, Paddington's got a sheep on his head as well.
Ha ha ha.
I think, Lily, you know about Paddington, don't you? So, Paddington and the Giant Tour. One morning, Paddington answered the doorbell at number 32 Windsor Gardens, and to his surprise, he found his best friend, Mr. Grubber, waiting outside. "I've decided to treat myself to an outing, Mr. Brown," he said, "and I was wondering if you would care to join me." Paddington was very, very excited. He always enjoyed his days out with Mr. Grubber, and he didn't need asking twice. In no time at all, he returned with his suitcase full of marmalade sandwiches, ready for the journey, along with Mrs. Bird's umbrella in case it rained. There he is, he's all ready for his journey. And there's Mr. Grubber talking to him. Oh, I wonder where he's going. They hadn't gone very far when Paddington spotted a bench. "Perhaps we ought to eat our sandwiches now, Mr. Grubber," he said. "If it rains, they might get wet." While they'd stopped, Mr. Grubber showed Paddington some photographs of the places that he wanted to visit. There they are, sitting down having their sandwiches, and there's Mr. Grubber's photographs. "I thought we might go on what's called hop-on, hop-off bus," said Mr. Grubber. "You can come and go as you like, so it's possible to see lots of different sights with only one ticket." "I don't think I've ever been on one of those before," said Paddington, as they went on their way. "It sounds very good to me." As they turned a corner and Paddington saw the waiting bus, he nearly fell over backwards with alarm, for part of the roof was missing. Have you ever seen a bus like that? Look, the top's missing. That's a funny bus. What's going to happen when it rains? "I think the driver must have gone under a low bridge by mistake," he said. Mr. Grubber laughed. "Don't worry, Mr. Brown. It's made that way so that passengers have a good view of all the sights. If you wait here and you form a queue," he continued, "I'll get the tickets. Then we can make sure of seats in the front row." "That's a good idea," said an inspector. "The early bird catches the worm, and I'm expecting a large party of assorted overseas visitors any moment now." "Perhaps I can interest you in one of these booklets telling you all about the trip," said the inspector. "It comes in lots and lots of different languages." Paddington was most impressed. "Oh, thank you very much, sir," he said. "I'd like one in Peruvian, please." "Peruvian? Peruvian?" repeated the man. "I'm afraid we don't get much call for Peruvian." He's really confused him, Paddington has there. "You don't get much call for it?" exclaimed Paddington. "Everybody speaks it in darkest Peru. You don't even have to call out." He gave the man a very hard stare. "Wait here," said the inspector nervously. "I'll see what I can do, see if I can find one in Peruvian." No sooner had the inspector disappeared than Paddington saw a crowd approaching, so he raised Mrs. Bird's umbrella in case he had a job finding him again. "I'm sorry we're late," panted the leader of the group. "We got held up." There's Paddington holding the brolly up. And this is the group coming along. Paddington politely raised his hat. "That's all right," he began. "We can't all be early birds. I'm forming a queue." Before he had time to say any more, he found himself being pushed to one side as there was a mad scramble to get on board the bus. That's not very polite, is it? He's waiting there trying to form a queue and they've all just pushed in front of him. Well, I don't think that's very good. What do you think? Paddington watched in dismay as everyone on the top deck began fighting for the front seats. "I wouldn't sit there if I was you," he called. "There may still be some worms." But he was wasting his breath. So he tried again. "Excuse me," he called, lifting one leg, and he waved his umbrella. "It's hop on, hop off, and I'm afraid the front two seats upstairs are reserved." "Hold it, you guys," The leader gave a loud blast on his whistle. You're supposed to hop everywhere, okay? Pass it down the line. There's Paddington looking up at the bus, and everyone else was on board except him. That's not very good, is it? What happens now? Came a voice when everyone was settled. Paddington considered the matter for a moment. I'm not sure, he replied. I shall need to speak to Mr. Grubber, but I think you look at the view as you're going past, and then you hop off again. View? Said someone. What view? Their voices were lost in the general commotion as the leader blew several more blasts on his whistle and issued fresh instructions of what to do. I came on this trip to see the sights, protested a lady as she staggered off the bus. Not become one. I'm worn out, gasped another passenger, collapsing into her husband's arms, and we haven't been anywhere yet. A number of passers-by stopped to watch, and several joined in the fun as more and more people got a little bit disappointed. Soon the whole pavement was alive with people. Paddington tried closing his eyes, but whenever he opened them, more people had arrived.
You get different sheets then.
He was very relieved when he spied a familiar figure pushing his way through the crowd towards him. Are you all right, Mr. Brown? Called Mr. Grubber. This place looks like a battlefield. It feels like one, Mr. Grubber, said Paddington. I was trying to save our seats in the front row, but I'm afraid I wasn't quick enough. Oh dear, Paddington. The inspector gave me this booklet, said Mr. Grubber. He said it's very, very sorry it's in English, but he suggested we find somewhere quiet to read it until the fuss had died down. There's a little cafe over there. I'll hurry on ahead and reserve a table. So they went over onto the cafe to read the instructions that the bus driver had given them. Mr. Grubber hadn't gone very far before Paddington felt a spot of rain. Oh no, not raining again. On the end of his nose, so he stopped till he opened the umbrella. Almost immediately he heard a whistle and a voice shouting, Follow him! You guys, don't let him out of your sight! Paddington hurried on his way as fast as his legs would carry him. Even so, he only just managed to reach the cafe ahead of the others. Quick, Mr. Brown, asked a voice from behind some potted plants. Over here, over here. There's some cocoa over here. There's Paddington with his brolly up, and there's people chasing him. And then when he gets to the cafe, there's Mr. Brown. Where is he? Oh, there's Mr. Brown.
No, that's Mr. Gruber.
Oh, Mr. Gruber, sorry.
Paddington, it's
Yeah.
Mr. Brown.
All right, missus. I should be careful at your sips, Mr. Brown, warned Mr. Grubber, as the waitress arrived with two steaming mugs. It looks very, very hot, and they may give the game away. I don't know about any sips, Mr. Grubber, said Paddington, as the crowd burst through the door. I'm beginning to wish I'd bought my disguise outfit. There you are, cried the leader. I've never known a tour captain so hard to keep up with. Tour captain? Said Paddington. You were holding up your umbrella, said the man. That's what tour captains do. It's so that people don't get lost. I'm not a tour captain, said Paddington. As a man, they thought Paddington, because he put his umbrella up, was a tour captain, so they started following him. Paddington says, I'm not a tour captain, I'm a bear. The crowd fell silent as they took in the news. You mean we've been doing all that hopping around for nothing? Complained one of the party. I thought it was some quaint old English custom that you did. What are we going to do now? Cried someone else. We've missed our bus. Paddington looked out of the window at the rain and then at his booklet. I think I've got an idea coming on, said Paddington. After explaining what he had in mind, he waited for the others to settle down. Then, while Mr. Grubber held up his pictures one by one, Paddington read from the booklet. If the words didn't always match up with the pictures, no one seemed to mind, and at the end, as the sun came out, they all applauded him. That was the best tour I've ever been on, said someone, amidst the all general agreement. There they are, explaining to everyone what all the sights are from the photographs. That's clever, isn't it? I didn't know Buckingham Palace was over 60 metres high, said a lady in the party as they began to leave. I'm afraid it got mixed up with Nelson's column by mistake, explained Paddington. It's a bit difficult with pause, but I must have turned over 2 pages at once. Never mind, said a man. The exercise has done us all good, and I haven't felt so fit in years. And to show how pleased they were, everyone dropped a coin or two into Paddington's umbrella as they left. There you go, there's Paddington with his umbrella on. And as all the guests walked past, they put money in his umbrella as a way of saying thanks. That was quite nice of them, wasn't it? Well, said Mr. Grubber, when it was all quiet again, what do you think of that, Mr. Brown? I think, said Paddington, I might become a tour captain when I'm old enough. It seems a very good job for a rainy day, especially if you have your own umbrella. There you go. There's Mr. Grubber and there's Paddington. That's the end of that one. Okay.